Okay, this morning I want to provide the board with an update on where we are with the selection of a developer for Ports O' Call. As you may remember, we released the RFQ for the site on July 25th, and the deadline was October 5th. Prior to releasing the RFQ, we really wanted to maximize our chances for a successful response and show momentum along the waterfront. And so, we did a lot of things. We improved the activities. There's summer concert series. We had the arrival of the USS Iowa, the opening of Crafted. That helped bring a lot of exposure to the San Pedro waterfront. And then our consultants spent a lot of time doing outreach to the developer community to let them know about the opportunity. As a result of that, we had 8 responses. One firm did drop out, and then 7 of those were interviewed. The evaluation criteria, which was published in the RFQ, focused on 5 things: the qualifications and experience of the developer's vision for redeveloping Ports O' Call, the ability of the developer to finance the project, how the developer was going to implement the project, whether it was going to be sustainable, and the developer's ability to complete the project on schedule. I have to say that we had a very strong evaluation team reviewing the responses. We had 3 persons who agreed to participate on the panel with Port staff that had extensive experience. I want to thank Monique Moyer, Executive Director of the Port of San Francisco, Joe Rich from Rich Development, which is a San Pedro-based development firm, and Bud Overham, who is currently the city's General Manager of Department of Building and Safety, but prior to that had a long career working in redevelopment. And they really provided great input to the process. Other contributors, in addition to Dave Matheson and Jack Hedge, were Carl Pan, our Chief Financial Officer, who reviewed the financial documents submitted by the development firms, and also the port consultants from Maxima Group, Pat Flynn, Jim Shear, and Rob York, and they also were invaluable in providing assistance. We received a variety of project visions with varying degree of detail. Some included a lot of detail, where others required more work to define. Many of the proposers had elements that were inconsistent with the Tidelands Trust or may have gone outside the boundaries of the site. There's no such thing as really a perfect proposal. We view the visions that were submitted as really the first step in a process. My purpose this morning is to share with you what the proposal's concepts were and to let you know where the evaluation team landed and then what happens next. We're not going to be asking you to vote on anything today, but we'll be coming back to you with a recommendation in January. We were very pleased to receive a proposal from outside the United States from a company called MacArthur Glen. They're a London-based developer of high-end designer outlet malls throughout Europe, and they have 21 outlets in Europe, and they're working now on their first project in North America in Vancouver, Canada. Consistent with their development background, their vision for Ports O' Call included a designer outlet mall. It was an extremely impressive proposal. They would draw visitors from around the region. People that typically might drive out to Cabazon would then come here instead. They generally have their own restaurants within their mall. And we were somewhat concerned that this would be an island unto itself. People would come, maybe experience a day long of going to outlet malls and then get in their car and drive home. We also were concerned that it might not provide the type of development we're looking for that's going to draw people from the local community to go out there on a frequent basis. A primary goal of our waterfront development, which is really driven home by our continuous promenade, is really having people come and experience a number of elements or attraction along the entire waterfront. We're also a little concerned that the outlet mall would not be consistent with the Tidelands Trust because it may not be viewed as visitor serving, although personally I can contest that because I only go to outlet malls on vacation. Another concern we have is that the outlet mall along the 405 freeway in Carson is finally moving forward, and that could impact the viability of an outlet mall at Ports O' Call. However, I have to say their proposal was outstanding. We immediately reached out to the mayor's office, and there are people there that are looking at other opportunities in the city for MacArthur Glen. I've spoken with their representative myself about the next time they come to California, to connecting them with the mayor's office to talk about another future for them in the city of Los Angeles, because they're very anxious to come into this market. The second proposal came from a company called CalCoast, which has over 25 years experience in residential and commercial projects. They developed the first phase of the Cabrillo Marina, including the DoubleTree Hotel. Their vision included restaurants, neighborhood retail such as a grocery store, dry cleaners, a coffee shop, and an international marketplace that might be similar to the Ferry Building in San Francisco or Pike's Place in Seattle. They also had amusement rides and creative office space. And while offices are allowed in the Tidelands area, it has to be maritime office in order to be consistent with the trust. And their vision, as you can see, retained a field of parking in the middle of the site. The next proposal came from Majestic Realty. Majestic is a well-qualified developer focused primarily on office and industrial space, although they have done retail, entertainment, and hospitality projects, including the Staples Center. They have the capability to finance and carry out a development, and they discussed with us providing regional destination retail uses as a catalyst with an international marketplace as a potential centerpiece for their proposal, although, as you can see from the drawing, their vision was not very specific. The next vision came from Rising Realty Partners. Rising Realty has extensive development experience through its principal, Nelson Rising, while he served as a partner at McGuire Thomas and CEO at Catellis Development. His experience includes a 300-acre mixed-use project at Mission Bay in San Francisco, a mixed-use development at Playa Vista, and a mixed-use Alameda Landing project at the former Alameda Naval Air Station. Rising provided a development framework at Ports O' Call, which included a subsequent planning process to determine a viable and financeable concept. Their vision proposed a significant re-entitlement of the site to allow for a much higher density development focused on residential use with retail uses to support the residents. As proposed, the vision would be inconsistent with the trust, and Rising indicated they would not want to go forward with a project unless they can get the site re-entitled to allow for high-density residential development. Sonnenblick Development has completed several office developments leased to government agencies. The principal of Sonnenblick Development was also a partner in the development of the Lowe's Santa Monica Beach Hotel. Their vision is weighted heavily on a concentration of national chain restaurants. I believe they had 13 or 14 of them, creating a critical mass to develop the regional draw for visitors. Initially, their vision was to clear the entire site along with all of the existing tenants and develop the chain restaurants, and then bring back the San Pedro Fish Market after shutting it down for a few years, although we were unsure how that might work out. Their retail element was a Bass Pro Shop. They proposed utilizing the 22nd Street parking lot south of the SP slip, which was really outside the Ports O' Call Opportunity site, to accommodate office space and surface parking. And as I said, we can have offices, but they need to be maritime related. Their plan also keeps a large field of parking in the project site. We have some concerns about a concentration of national chain restaurants bringing visitors to the waterfront area from around the regions, because many of these same restaurants are available in other locations. We also are concerned that it might not provide the type of development that will bring local visitors to the waterfront consistently. However, there are elements in Sonnenblick's proposal, like the Bass Pro Shop, that would be a great fit for the development pads at the new Cabrillo Marina, and we hope to continue working with him about that. The next proposal came from Strata and TFO/TDD partners. Strata is the developer, and TFO/TDD partners are the visionaries in this team. The TFO/TDD partners are former Disney Imagineers with extensive experience in designing Disney theme parks. The vision they submitted was well thought out and detailed. Their vision was to develop a regional waterfront amusement destination with retail entertainment, restaurants, a farmer's market, exploratorium, and an immigrant museum, a boutique hotel, and conference center. The vision also includes extensive landscaping and public places to host events. This vision is, in many ways, is similar to Tivoli Gardens in Denmark, one of the oldest amusement and entertainment sites in the world. While we thought this was the strongest vision, we had some serious concerns about the ability of the team to carry out this vision. Strata's past development experience has been limited to small-scale strip mall developments and infill neighborhood retail project, and this vision is on a significantly larger scale than the developer's past experience. The final proposal came from LA Waterfront Alliance. This is a partnership between Ratkovich Company and the Jericho Development Company. Through the Ratkovich Company, the LA Waterfront Alliance has extensive experience in developing high-profile projects, including the Hercules Campus Project at Playa Vista, the Mixed-Use Alhambra Project in Alhambra, and the Terminal Annex Project, a high-density mixed-use development on 18 acres next to Union Station. The Ratkovich Company has developed several million square feet of office, retail, and residential projects, and Jericho Development generally focuses on adaptive reuse of buildings. Their vision includes restaurants, visitor-serving retail, a boutique hotel and conference center, a market square, residential uses, and the relocation of the port's administrative offices adjacent to or within the Ports of Call site. The vision also included a gateway at 13th Street to link the waterfront with the community. And while the vision includes a residential element which would not be permitted under the trust, the development team pledged to work closely with the port and the community to create a development that is trust compliant and financially feasible. Their vision also embraces recommendations from the ULI study on ports of call, including retaining the fish market because it represents the local flavor of San Pedro, and linking the development to the community and downtown San Pedro. With Jericho Development, the development team also has a strong understanding of the community and understands that their vision must not only work to draw regional visitors, but also serve local visitors and to keep them coming back. The development partnership also has extensive experience partnering with major institutional equity investors and lenders and has successfully financed several development projects. So based on their vision, the development team's breadth of experience in completing projects, and their ability to access financial markets, the evaluation team has recommended to Port Management that we focus our intentions on the LA Waterfront Alliance as the developer of the Ports of Call site, and that again is Wayne Ratkovich and Jericho Development. So let me talk a little bit about what happens next now that we've got a recommendation from the team. Based on the criteria identified in the qualifications, we intend to come back to the board next month with a formal recommendation on the selection and the approval of an exclusive negotiating agreement with the LA Waterfront Alliance. And I have to be very clear, this does not mean the process is over. This exclusive negotiating agreement is the first step in a project development process that allows the port and developer to perform due diligence, refine the development concept, attempt to negotiate project details that would ultimately lead to a ground lease. And during this period, the ENA period, the port would not negotiate with any other party for the Ports of Call development, and the developer would not negotiate with any other party for a similar use at another location. Should the board approve staff's recommendation, the developer will begin to work on pre-development items such as market and feasibility study, determining what entitlements and additional environmental work may be required. There will be feedback from the port, and we expect the developer to establish a process to seek public input to finalize their vision, and we're going to assist them in this process. While we hope this process leads to a successful conclusion, it may not. We hope it does, but it may not. If it does not, then we go back to our list and we try again. So that is where we're at. We have not yet started negotiations on an exclusive negotiating agreement. We are just essentially at the point where the selection team has provided their feedback to port management. So that concludes my presentation. Jack Hedge and Dave Matheson are here, and I have to compliment Dave Matheson and Lisa Jordan, who managed this overall process, included bringing in our outside evaluators, and all of us would be prepared to answer any questions that you might have.
I guess a couple questions that I had is, you mentioned also, I think, in one of the proposals, only the last one, that they made reference to the older ULI study, and there clearly had been a number of studies done previously in earlier efforts or iterations to try to look at ports of call. And was the ULI study given as background information to any of the proposers when we had these public meetings about what concepts were? I mean, sort of laying a groundwork. I mean, if not, I mean, the one that you mentioned who did utilize it was at least sharp to pick it up and say this was something that they had to reference.
We did reference it in the document, and as well as in our discussions with developers that there were previous studies, a variety of studies done on the waterfront over the last several years.
All right, and I think with as you said, it's not necessarily a recommendation that we're approving, but at least the next steps that you wanted to take, which you outlined as occurring between January and June. Obviously, from the port's perspective, the due diligence and ability of someone to perform and really deliver, because that's been part of the problem in the past. Due to the economy, due to other stops and starts, nothing has ever gone there, and I think everyone in this community believes that it is appropriate and time. But just as much, everyone in this community feels it's really their community, it's their site, it's their project. So the item on your last part of your presentation about the developer initiating with us public outreach, I really would like to see either not only some more thoughts about that, but some more fleshed out elements. I trust that the staff will do well on its economic due diligence, financial package, feasibility issues, but as far as the public's concerned, that should be starred, red flagged, the most important thing. And as you know, we've gotten concerns about that because the public has familiarity with ULI, has familiarity with the process, and has a real interest, and appropriately so, in what this is and how that developer development will integrate, interact, and be, part of this community. So I would like to see more thought about that. I don't know if it has been thought out at this point, but very early on, if the staff is going to pursue this course, I think this commission, as well as the public, is going to want to see an awful lot of what that means and how accessible, how available it will be to a lot of different entities. And obviously there's not going to be multitudes of meetings, but I'd like to see open public capability of meetings for this kind of presentation and outreach, so that when something might finally be brought back, which is a further fleshed out vision presentation, it is done after considerable consideration and input from the public in terms of how that should be formulated and presented. So I don't know if there is any initial thought to that right now, or if you want to wait and come back next month. But I think it's really got to be front and center if we start to move forward on this.
agree 100%. We recognize that, and it was our plan to present that process when we come back next month.
Yeah, just I'd first like to commend the staff for bringing this forward at a public meeting. And I'd just like to ask the people here from the public, how many of you came because you wanted to hear something about Ports O Call development? Okay, so the considerable interest right here. And I think it's important to keep the process at least on two different levels. One level is, you know, making sure that the people that are making this decision, you know, do the due diligence and are making it based off what's feasible and what's possible in the community. But secondly, as you've done today, being transparent to how the process is moving forward. And people here in the community, I would have thought there would have been a bigger crowd here today to listen to this. But as I go through San Pedro, you know, and I talk to different people, there's interest, but it's not like, you know, it's not like overwhelming. You know, the criticism you hear and you see it in the community is, how come everything is so secretive? And I would just say to the community, those of us as commissioners rely upon the staff and the process. And we know about as much as the community does about what's going on, and that's the way I think it needs to be fair and objective about giving each of these proposals the kind of fairness that's necessary. You open this up and clearly, and I'm not sure, but I would think that many of these proposals have local interest in it, local groups in it. And when you begin to expose that, then all of a sudden you have different local groups fighting for their proposal and lobbying for their proposal before the, you know, in public and in private. And I would just rather see this committee do its job and come forward with the best proposal possible. I would just recommend that this is a working class community. The waterfront and what we have to offer is a working class. That is the advantage we have over San Francisco and every other port on the West Coast. And if we tap into that and we reach out to working class people with expendable capital here in the United States and internationally, and we are the gateway to LA, to California, and to America, not only in terms of cargo production, but this is the first place visitors want to stop at, whether they're from Japan or China or Australia or New Zealand or the Philippines or wherever. And I think this has got to be our reach. This is what we have to look at to make this realistic, not just local, but we are the gateway. So why don't we reach out to that expendable capital internationally and not only nationally as part of our vision? The final thing I'd say is I'm concerned with the process, and you know, it's good coming here, and the public has a right to be here and to ask questions and have a point of view. And I haven't heard too many of those yet, but from the public, so that's good. But at the same time, we've got to go beyond that. And I would just say to the community and everyone else, I'm going to wait, and when it comes in front of us with the proposal, I'm going to, you know, demand that the public play a major role in having input before I ever get to a point where I would approve anything, you know, in this community. At the same time, the community got to realize we're just a small part of the possibility of success at Ports O Call. We're just a small part in terms of how much capital and money goes in and how much is spent there locally. We will only succeed if we become a regional and an international spot and not just something that accommodates people in San Pedro. So we got to have that balance, you know, and I'm going to fight for that. So those are just my comments. But again, I commend you on the process. I'm glad. I was surprised to see the detail that we had here today, but I think it's a good step for the commission and for the community. Thank you.
All right, any other comments? If not, then we will see something back, hopefully more particularly fleshed out in how a public process of further development of this development proposal that we would be working with that might be generated.